Hello, today we are going to talk about the sales tax tips and markup for lesson 6. The first thing we want to notice is a couple things that we are going to learn about today include sales tax and total cost, tips and markups. And there are many other things that we will see, such as gratuity, the selling price, and so on. So let's begin. First, we got the real world link. We have this problem. We want to identify important information. This is very important. So we want to know if we are looking at this. We read the problem. Alonzo plans to buy a new kayak that costs $2,100. We want to know this information right here. This is very, very important information. We must underline. But when he buys the kayak, it actually costs more because he lives in a county where there is a 7% sales tax. So we must include this information as well. These two pieces of information are vital for what we need to solve. And this next sentence right here is one I encourage that you start. Because if we start this is something that we can go back and look at again. We can find the amount of tax on an item by multiplying the price by the tax percentage. Very important information to know. So, we look at number 1. Circle the amount below that shows the amount of tax Alonzo will pay for the kayak. Well, let's do what that sentence a moment ago says. We're going to multiply the two numbers that we have. So first we're going to have 2,100. We're going to multiply these by 7%. Now we want to convert this 7%. We do not want to use 7% right off the bat. Yeah, we must convert the decimal. So we are multiplying these two values. Now when we do so, 7 times 0, that's a beautiful 0. 7 times 0 again. 7 times 1, we get 7. And then the 7 times 2, we get 14. So we have this beautiful number here. But this is not our final answer. We must move the decimal in. Yeah. So we are going to move this decimal in. We have this place value, this place value. That's 2 decimal places after the decimal. So we are going to start at the end. 1, 2. And we have our answer. This is the amount of sales tax that Alonzo must pay for the kayak. So now we continue. We have to use this information as we continue in to the next part. So as we continue moving forward, we now know that the kayak is $2,100. The sales tax is $147. When we add these together, we start from the right. 7, 4, 2, 2. We get a grand total of 2,247. 2,247. So that is the grand total that Alonzo will pay for the kayak. We now move on to part 3. It says to multiply these two values. Okay, well let's do this. So we have 2,100 and we multiply by 1.07. When we do that, well, we're going to get very similar results of what we had before. And now we get, so we just did 7. 7 times 0 is 0, 7 times 0 is 0. So we get 147 in the first row. 0 times all 4 of these numbers becomes all zeros. 1 times 0 is 0. We put that directly below the 1. 1 times 0 again is 0. 1 times 1 is 1. And then 1 times 2 is 2. And from here, we are now going to add straight down. Zeros add up to zeros. Zeros add up to zeros. 7 plus 0 plus 0 is 7. 4 plus 0 plus 0 is 4. 1 plus 0 plus 1 is 2. And 2 plus nothing is 2. We have two decimal place values. We move it in twice. And there's our decimal value. We get the same result. We get 2,247. What was the main difference? Well, the difference that we have so the main difference is that 1.07 is 107%. And what that means is that we, with the sales tax included, it's compared to the original cost, we're going to be paying 107% of the original cost because of the sales tax. Let us continue and see how we can apply this to other problems. The next problem we are talking about Alonzo. And Alonzo is discussing with us about hiring a guide for his trip. So Alonzo, he hires a guide that costs $50. Alonzo wants to give the guide a 10% tip. We need to explain how to find the amount of the tip. Well, knowing these two values and wanting to find just the amount of the tip, what we would want to do is we would want to multiply the percent, which is also the decimal equivalent, 1/10, by 50. And doing this will help us find the amount of the tip. We continue on to look at sales tax and total cost. And we are now going to look at some different items and different examples about this. So sales tax it's an additional amount that is charged on items that we buy. And every state is actually different. Every state has different laws for different sales tax on different types of items, whether it be clothing, food, vehicles, so on. So we have some examples here. Example 1 here. With example 1, what's happening is we are given two different ways to solve. We have method 1, we have method 2. Method 1 is showing us how we could find the sales tax first and then add it to the original cost. Method 2 is showing us if we just combine the percents together and then multiply it to the original cost, we will have the total cost in one calculation. So, let us begin. So these are the two different methods, and we're going to show this in part A below. So let's work on part A. It says, what is the total cost of a sweatshirt if the regular price is $42 and the sales tax is 5.5%? Okay, so first, we're going to show method 1. So if we were to show method 1, so let's begin showing part A with method 1. So with method 1, we would first write 5.5% as a decimal. So remember, 5.5% as a decimal, we could first rewrite these. So 5.5. This is the same as 5.5. Well, both of these are still percents, and we need to convert by moving the decimal to the left twice. And when we do so, we obtain the decimal up here. We get that decimal. We then multiply the decimal to 42, and $2.31 is the sales tax. Well, we're not done yet. We now have to add the sales tax to the regular price. So we add the sales tax to the regular price, and we get the value of $44.31. So if we wanted to solve it similar to method 1, in example 1, this is how we would do it. Now let's take a look at how this would go if we did method 2. So with method 2, we add the percent of tax to 100%. And when we do that, we get 105.5%. Then to find the total cost, we change the percent to a decimal, 1.055 times 42. And if we multiply these together, we get the grand total of $44.31. We get the same value. So method 1 and method 2 are both excellent methods to know and understand. They both work, and they will both get us the same answer. So now let's move on and see some of the other vocabulary that we are going to look at here under tax and gratuity. So this next section, we're going to look at tips and markups. So a tip or gratuity is an amount of money in return for a service, and this is used in many areas of life. We will see many tip jars at many places now, and they will ask for it, whether it's on tours, whether it's at a restaurant, many places. And then markups, a store sells an item for more than it pays for those items. If a store did not, then it would lose money. So a store must sell an item for more than what it bought it for. So the amount of increase is called the markup. The selling price is the amount the customer pays for an item. So on the next page, we have some examples here. We have examples 2 and 3. In example 2, it goes over both of those methods again, where you find the tip, and then you add it to the restaurant bill to find the total bill. In method 2, we see that they add the percent tip to 100%, and then they multiply it to the restaurant bill. Both methods get us the same total cost in the end. Example 3 goes into a haircut and the cost of the haircut and a sales tax being included with a tip. So here we have more than 1% that we are adding in. So together, we add the tip, the tip and the sales tax together to get 19.75%. Then they multiply to find out how much is going to sales tax and tips. After that, they calculate to see, is it sufficient to cover the total cost or not. Let's take a look at parts B and C now. So first, for part B, if we're looking at part B, Scott wants to tip his taxi cab driver 20%. If his commute costs $15, what is the total cost? So let's add the percents together. So 100%, because he has to pay his bill, plus 20%. We get 120%. We are then going to multiply 120%, or 1.2, by $15. And when we multiply these together, we are going to get a grand total of $18. So the total cost is 18. Now let's go on to part C. So for part C, find the total cost of a spa treatment of $42, including a 6% sales tax and a 20% tip. Once again, let's combine all of the percents together so we can do one multiplication. So we're going to take 100%. We're going to add 6%. And we're going to add 20%. If we add these together, we're going to get a grand total of 126%. So 126%, that is this value, 1 in 26 hundredths. We're going to multiply that to $42. And when we do that, we are going to get a grand total of $52.92. So the total cost of this spa treatment is $52.92. And that includes all the tax and the tip with the bill. So next, we look at our last example. We have example 4. And this is going over markup. The idea of what a store will pay for an item, the markup percent that they are going to charge, and then we find the selling price. So a store pays $150 for a portable basketball backboard, and the markup is 40%. What is the selling price? This is for part D. We are very, very closely going to work with example 4. Almost identical. So let's see what they did in example 4. A store pays $56 for a GPS system. The markup is 25%. Here is their initial equation. They are trying to first find the markup. How much did the store increase the price? So that's what we're going to do in part D. We're going to start off with M equals. We're going to take our percent as a decimal, 0.4. We're going to multiply it to 150. And when we do that, we're going to find that the markup is $60. Okay, let's see what they do next. Next, add the markup to the amount the store pays. That's what we need to do as well. So the next thing we're going to do is add the markup to the amount the store pays. And when we do that, we have 60 plus 150, which gets us a grand total of $210. So the selling price is $210 for a portable basketball backboard. Now, there are a couple other problems that I would like to discuss. First, let us look at number 4 in the guided practice. For number 4 in the guided practice, we have find the selling price of a $62.25 karaoke machine with a 60.5% markup. Well, doing this very similar to what we did in part D and what they did in example 4. We first need to find the markup. So we have to take the percent written as a decimal. We have to multiply that to the cost that the store paid. When we multiply those, we find that the markup is approximately, we have to round to the nearest cent, $37.66. We round it to the nearest penny. Money will always have 2 decimal places after the decimal. It will never go beyond. So the markup cost is $37.66. We now need to find the selling price. So we take the markup, $37.66, and we're going to add it to the price that the store paid, which was $62.25. So we have to add these two amounts. When we do, we're going to find that we get the following. It's $990.91. And that is all for number 4. Now, another problem that we are going to discuss is in the independent practice, number 11. So let's turn to number 11 in the independent practice. So for number 11 and the independent practice, we are talking about the leather depot. And they buy a coat from a supplier for $90. And the markup price by 40%. If the retail price is this, what is the sales tax? So we will have to find the sales tax in this problem. Well, first, we must find what the markup is. So, following closely to example 4, with the markup, we are going to do $90 times 40%, or 4/10 times 90. When we simplify this, we're going to find that this equals 36. So the markup is $36, which means this store sold it for 90 plus 36, which is $126. So we know that the store had it listed as $126. Well, the entire retail price, the selling price, was the final price with the sales tax was $134.82. So there's 2 ways that we can solve this next part. If we are trying to find the sales tax, normally, if we had the tax, we would take 126 times the tax and get our answer. Well, in this case, our answer, we know, is the final answer is 134.82. So we could have the tax added by 100% and solve, or we could do other steps as well. What we could do here is we could take the retail price of 134.82 and divide it by 126. When we do this, we're going to get a value of 1.07, which as a percent is 107%. Well, the selling price is 100%. Anything extra is the tax. So the sales tax is 7%. That is one way we could do it. Another way we could do this, so we could do it in one swift swoop and say, hey, 1.07, we take 1.07, subtract one whole, subtract that 100%, and we find that we get this decimal, or 7%. And that's our sales tax. So we could do it this way. Or we could do a much longer way, which would be subtracting 126 from 134. And getting a value of 882. We would then have to take 882 and divide it by 126. And in doing so, we would still get the same answer. So we could do it this way as well. But notice it does add in more steps. So we could do it in one step, or we can do it in multiple. We will still get the same answer. And this one will result as 7%. And the last problem we are going to talk about is number 14. Let us talk about number 14. So for number 14, there's a lot of strategies we could use to solve this. It says prices for several cell phones are listed in the table below. The table shows the regular price P and the price with tax T, price with tax. So we have the phone, the regular price, the price with tax. And notice they are represented with these variables, so we got to know the equation. Which formula can be used to calculate the price with tax? So we need to know which one of these formulas, because only one will work. Which one, if we replace the value of P with the values in the table, which one will get us each of these three values? That's our goal. That's what we want. Well, if we look at these, the subtraction one is not possible. We can get rid of this one. If we test out these other ones, where we're multiplying by a small decimal, so 80 times 8/10 will get us a smaller value, and it will not work. If we do C, we'll find that we will get, for the first one, $6.40. So this equation for C is just getting us the tax. It's not getting us the price with the tax. Remember, the price with the tax is going to be 100% plus whatever the tax percent is. So the only one that will work in this case is D, because it's the only one that is above 100%. So D is our answer for 14. Thank you for joining me. If you have any other questions, please do not hesitate